Today, I want to tell you one of the most important stories of my life. The raw, honest story of how my best friend Francesco and I went from making music in our bedrooms to creating a business that now generates over $10,000 per month. But if you told me that this was possible back in 2019, I wouldn't have believed you because we had no audience, no strategy, and no idea that it was even possible to make a living from our passion. But over time, after a lot of failures and a moment in which we almost gave up, we finally cracked it. And what took us 6 years to figure out, I'm gonna share with you today in the next 40 minutes so that you leave with the conviction that it's possible for you too. I'll run you through the timeline of our story from 2019 to today, 2026. I won't cover everything, but I'll share the key moments throughout our journey from zero to building a six-figure business. All right, as you can see, I created this timeline to share my story and to have some visuals to make it a little bit more interactive. Obviously, context is king, so our business in the music production niche is called Hypin' Records. And this is kind of where we stand today, right? We have a YouTube channel that was started in August 2019. I'll tell you about that in a second. We currently have about 40,000 subscribers and over 2.2 million views. And we are already generating over $100,000 per year in net revenue, mainly through digital products on Shopify and our digital community and our course, which we collect payments from Stripe, or using Stripe rather. All right, so 2019 is the beginning of this whole story. This is where it all started. To be exact, in April 2019, because in April 2019 is the moment in which I acquired and developed my passion for music production, which would eventually become the skill that I monetized along with Francesco and Luca. As you can see here, this is a photo from me in Amsterdam. This was one of my first, setups to make music. It was already a bit in the more advanced stages because I had a keyboard, I had a microphone. I was still working on a, shitty MacBook Air. And obviously I didn't start with all of this. I started with just a laptop, but over time I was able to, invest a little bit in better equipment. This was my first logo, which I think is just horrible. I don't know why I was doing the L, which I think is now like a loser sign since Fortnite or something like that. But anyways, pretty shitty logo. And these are some photos still from Amsterdam, one of my first studio sessions, which was an insane feeling. And this one as well was more of a home studio that we had set up to make some music. But I remember at first, there's kind of like that honeymoon phase when you develop a new passion, everything feels super exciting. And I can tell you that in these moments, everything was so thrilling because I was so passionate about music, and all I wanted to do in my free time was to develop that passion and those skills because I just absolutely loved it. Then if we move over to July 2019, I met Francesco and Luca, who would become my co-founders on Instagram. As you can see this DM here from Luca, who was talking to me in English, although we're all Italian. He was like, "Hey G, where are you from?" "Hey bro, from Italy, but living in Amsterdam." And then, the whole conversation stemmed from there, and we got to know each other. We created a WhatsApp group, and eventually this is how our business was born. Then if we move over to August 2019 is the month in which we created Hypin' Records and decided to share what we were learning through content. This was a decision that was quite easy for us because we all wanted to do it. It's impossible to tell you why, maybe because we were watching other content creators and we all had this feeling that what they were doing was the future. And so we started to make content, man. Like, it was very simple. You can see like this is what the video looked like. I had this banner, this little gaming thing over my cam. I was just recording my screen just like I'm doing now. And I was basically explaining very basic things about music production. I was showing people how to make beats for Travis Scott, how to make beats in the type of a famous Italian producer, how to make, Francesco was making videos on how to mix a beat in FL Studio. And at the time, he wasn't even showing his face, right? He had like a mask to protect his identity. And it's just to tell you that like we started super raw, man. Like we just started with whatever we had, hiding our faces, but we just wanted to share what we were learning with an audience. Like it was a deep desire that we had and that we eventually took action from, right? So you can see 6 years ago, this video was published and it got 26,000 views, which is not bad at all. This one got 37,000 views. Francesco's got almost 100,000 views. And this was super, super basic stuff and super basic information. And the whole start was super exciting. Like we were just making content. All we were able to do was to make content consistently. Like that was really just our philosophy. We weren't the best, but we figured that if we were able to make content every single week, one content each per week, we were gonna ramp up our skills in content creation very, very quickly. And so you can see here that we went from, having 2,000 subscribers in December 2019 to already having 4,000 in February 2020. So the growth was happening quite quickly just by sharing our skills with an audience, with whatever we had at our disposal and with whatever skills we had at the time. So in terms of key takeaways, key learnings for 2019, I have mainly three. The first one is that we got started, even if none of us truly felt ready for what we were trying to do. We just wanted to start. We wanted to find a way to make this passion more than just a passion, to start earning some money. And we figured that what we wanted to do was to make content, right? So the second point was that we didn't make excuses. Our equipment was basic, but it was enough to start. At the time, I was recording my audio through, these basic Apple headphones that you plug to the computer. So obviously the audio wasn't as good as what I have now, but still we didn't make excuses. We started with whatever we had. And then third, obviously making content felt super uncomfortable every single time, but it's what essentially kickstarted our growth. I cannot tell you how many times I fucked up a recording. I remember this one time I published a video at 8 a.m. that I basically I uploaded the wrong file. So instead of uploading the edited file, I uploaded the raw recording, which was like an hour long. And that's just part of the journey. Like when I did that and we already had some subscribers, it was the most embarrassing thing ever because people heard me repeat the same sentence over and over. But it was just part of the learning experience. And it's also what enabled me to get to this point today, to be able to make content that is obviously higher quality versus 6 years ago. So all of it is just a process, man. Then we move over to 2020, which I think was kind of a year of exploration more than anything. In January 2020, we opened our e-commerce store to sell digital products. At the time, we hosted this whole thing on WooCommerce. We weren't aware of Shopify yet. And we made our first sales, because we already had an audience that we could leverage. We already had those few thousand people that would be interested in what we had to offer. So we made some digital sound packs that we call drum kits in our niche, and we got the first sales. And I cannot tell you how crazy it felt to see that first notification on my phone of sales coming in because it's the feeling of somebody buying something that you created and knowing that that product is going to help that person become a better music producer, becoming better at the craft that they're trying to develop. So obviously super crazy feeling and definitely a first realization that something was possible. It was like a first hint that, holy shit, we've just been making content for a few months and we can actually already monetize our audience. Like I don't know, it kind of sparked something in my brain, which has never left since, basically. Then we moved to March 2020, where we made, to be honest, a huge mistake. But obviously, in hindsight, we could not have known that this was a mistake, right? So we had a store on WooCommerce, which probably wasn't the best platform, but we commissioned a custom website to a friend of a friend that I had met playing football or soccer. It was an expensive investment. I think all the money that we had made, I think it was about 3, 4, 5K maximum. We invested in making this custom website because we thought it was the best idea, the best solution to have something custom made and everything. Turns out that, first of all, the time we waited to have the website developed was quite long. It was very difficult to maintain and also very expensive to maintain. The guy was asking for, money every time we had to fix something. And then when we released the product, we launched the product and the website crashed the moment that we released the product. So obviously that was super painful and we should have never done this. But I think these are just the mistakes that you go through as a beginner, that you inevitably go through if you don't have the right guidance. So then eventually, I think it was later than March, but we moved over to Wix. So at this point, in just a few months, we tried WooCommerce, a custom website, and Wix. But sales were, kind of growing at the time. In April, we had almost 2,000 euros of revenue. And then in May, a little bit less than 3,000. So again, the potential was there and we saw a bit of a growth, which was super, super crazy to see. Then we moved to May 2020, and this is probably one of the biggest milestones that we reached. I mean, it was one of the craziest feelings when we reached 10,000 subscribers and over 1 million views on YouTube. As you can see here, these are the screenshots from YouTube back then that obviously I have on my phone. So 10,000 subscribers and 1 million views obviously was a huge milestone. And also something to note is that a lot of our growth was actually led by COVID, because having more people at home during lockdown was also equal to people having more time and just in general having more activity on YouTube. So we really saw a trend where people were consuming more of what we were making because they had a lot more free time to dedicate to watching our content. And then in June 2020, disaster, our YouTube channel gets hacked. This was a crazy event, man. Like, it was devastating. I was so sad and so afraid because essentially in a few seconds, we had lost everything that we had built, all the content we had made, all of the, time we had spent creating this reality was just gone in a few seconds. And it turns out that it was this Russian hacker group that hacked our channel to do some, live streams and promote some cryptocurrencies from our channel. And obviously YouTube detected that we were live streaming. I mean, obviously we weren't, but that these hackers were live streaming these crypto promotions. And so they shut our channel down. And you can see here a bunch of people wrote to us in our DMs on Instagram saying, like, I mean, this is in Italian, but the guy was saying, like, what the hell happened? I feel lost without your videos. And we got a lot of support and a lot of messages. And I even made a video here back then, which was like, our channel got hacked. Here's what happened. And man, it was it was devastating. I'm laughing about it now, but it was really a horrible moment, a horrible couple weeks until I contacted a friend that worked at Google, and over a couple weeks, he was able to help us get the channel back, thankfully. So I was about to lose hope, in that moment. I was thinking that if this was permanent, I don't know if I had it in me to start over, because it was already, at this point, a year of work that perhaps was just going to go in the bin. So key takeaways for 2020. The first one is that content is a powerful vehicle to make money online. If you ask me, I think it is the most powerful vehicle, but then obviously that can be argued. And I think we realized this very early on because, as you saw, just after a few months of making content, we were already able to monetize our passion, right? The skill that we had developed for music production was already generating a few $1,000s for us just after, what was it, like maybe 6 months of making videos. So that's really crazy. The second thing I understood is that views are not equal to revenue. It's not because your channel has 1 million views that your revenue is going to follow. Looking ahead and more recently, we have videos that got way less views than the videos we made back then that were able to generate a lot more revenue per video. And that's something that we were completely unaware of in the past. We thought that to make a lot of money online, you needed to get a lot of views. Turns out that's not how things work. And the third point is get yourself a friend that works at Google. That's obviously just a joke, but without my friend, it would have been very difficult to get the channel back. 2021, slow progress. This was a very difficult year. 2021 and 2022 were the most difficult years, in my opinion. So in 2021, one of the key events in February is that we actually registered our company in Italy. I love this photo, man. Just 3 kids, clueless, no idea what they were doing. I was out here signing documents and I felt for the first time like a real entrepreneur, and you can imagine I was maybe 23 at the time, something like that, 23, 24. And creating a company was maybe a dream that I've always had, but that I wasn't so aware of. And in that moment, I felt like I was fulfilling something that I wanted, like it felt super, super thrilling. And I was so excited to be in that position. And to be honest, for us, it was kind of early to open a company in the sense that it was the right thing to do. but our revenue was still very, very low. We were just making a few thousand euros per month. So it was maybe a bit premature, but we did it, and you know what? It kind of worked out, so it's all good. And at this point, we had about 20,000 subscribers on the channel, so still growing nicely through content. Then in July 2021, we had more studio sessions together in Italy to develop our skills and our knowledge around music production. As you can see some photos here from that time, I will never get this haircut again, I promise. Playing the guitar, making beats, and my posture here is absolutely horrible, but the picture is kind of cool. But yeah, basically just spending time together, developing our skills and knowledge. And what I remember from this period is that we were doing these things, but we had no idea what we were trying to achieve. Like there was a lot of confusion around, okay, we like to make beats, we like to make music, we're making content, but like, what are we trying to get out of this whole thing? Like, what is our vision? And to be honest, we didn't have one at all. So key takeaways for 2021. The first one is that we registered the company, but as I was just saying, we weren't managing this project as a business at all. Secondly, we were making content without any strategy behind it. We were teaching things to Italian producers, but we didn't have a content funnel. We weren't thinking about why are we making content? Like what are we expecting to get out in return of this content? It was all very blurry. And we just didn't really see it as a business. So we didn't, care too much about it. And the third point is that we were getting views, but very little revenue and clients in return, which is what I was saying before. It doesn't matter if you get views if you don't have a way to monetize that audience, right? But again, at the time, it wasn't necessarily our priority. So it is what it is. Then we moved to 2022. I don't even have many screenshots or pictures from 2022 because this is the year we almost quit this whole project that we had started at this point 2.5, 3 years ago. So as a company, let's say, the first thing is that we had this lack of direction, which is what I was saying. We had no vision, no idea what we wanted to create. And I think we were just trying things here and there, but it wasn't really working out. We had tried to build a content creator team, which I thought was a great idea, to get more people that we had met along the way, along the journey, to make content on our channel. But we had no clear vision on what we wanted to become. Like it wasn't enough to say we're going to get content creators. What are we trying to build around it, especially as a business? How do we then monetize all this extra content that we're making? And that wasn't clear at all. We weren't running this project as a business, what I said before. And we were focusing on making music, but we never prioritized our e-commerce store. So revenue didn't grow. And it's still, linked to this concept of business. We were just producers at the time. We weren't really thinking as entrepreneurs. And so we expected our revenue to grow, but we weren't prioritizing any of it, right? We were just focused on making music and developing our skills still. And personally, I was still making music, but at this point, I didn't enjoy the process nearly as much as in the beginning. And most importantly, I understood that what really drove me since the beginning was the entrepreneurial aspect of the project. It was this idea of creating a collective and a business from scratch, and that the music part was kind of a way to get me, or to get my foot through the door, right? But I never really saw myself as somebody who would become a full-time music producer. But I did know that my goal personally was to be an entrepreneur and to live from my projects. So then we moved to 2023, and I call this year Now or Never. I think it's a pretty sick title, to be honest, because it's really a turning point for us, right? We just went through 2 difficult years where we make content consistently, but we have very little results to show for it. So now comes a point where if we're going to keep investing all of this time into this project, we need to start seeing results. Like it wasn't an option anymore. We needed to see something out of all the effort that we were putting in. So in April 2023, we start focusing a lot more on the business side. We start researching, we start watching YouTube content around e-commerce and digital products and sales strategy and content funnels and CTAs and all these things that obviously have a big impact on monetization. And so we understand that our digital product store setup was not good enough. We learned about Shopify, and we open our Shopify store, which in hindsight is the best decision we could have made, right? So we also tried to manage Hypin as an actual business with the skills that we had back in 2023. So we tried to have more regular product launches, and we tried to leverage our content to increase revenue. And just here, what we try to do is to have more CTAs, right? Like we make a video, but we actually try to redirect people to our store, which is something that we didn't even do back then. So a small tweak obviously made a huge difference. And as we can see in 2023, from this store, we were able to make almost $20,000. So still an extremely low revenue, especially when you have a registered company. But it was kind of a realization that if we focused on the business aspect, we could maybe, just maybe, make a living from this whole thing, which was starting to become our dream and our goal. In June 2023, we launched our first monthly recurring revenue product, MRR, through the Hypin Weeklies. This was like a low ticket offer, so about, I think, $10 per month, so super low. But again, at the time, we were just figuring things out along the way, where we were sending weekly samples to the producers who were subscribed to this product. So no big impact in terms of revenue, but it was a first look into what it's like to have a monthly recurring revenue through a digital product. And in October 2023, I think one of the biggest shifts happened for us because it was our first time working with a business coach. And this was a revolution for us. All these things that we weren't aware of, like email marketing, which obviously can sound very basic, but think about it as we were kind of kids back then, especially in business and entrepreneurial terms. We didn't know a lot of things that seem obvious to us now. And these coaches opened our eyes to a lot of things that really revolutionized our business and our numbers. So we introduced email marketing, we developed better and more consistent offers, we built a bulletproof marketing plan for product launches, and we saw an immediate impact. This gave us a lot of hope. We had momentum on our side, and our motivation, contrarily to 2021 and 2022, was back to 100%, similar to what we had in 2019, where everything felt super exciting. Now, once again, everything felt super exciting because we saw this opportunity and we saw that there was a better way to do what we were trying to do. Talking about coaching, if you're a person that has a specific skill, expertise, or knowledge, and that is at least curious to understand how it's possible to monetize that skill, expertise, or knowledge, click the first link in the description to book a free consultation with us. It takes 2 minutes, and we'd love to just have a very simple conversation with you to talk about your ideas, your projects, and to get to know you a little bit better. That being said, key takeaways for 2023. The first one is, trust me when I say that Shopify is better than any custom website, at least for digital products, and of course, for the position that we were in, where we wanted something simple, something that doesn't require a lot of time and money to maintain, and that would allow us to launch products consistently and efficiently. And the second point is that working with a coach changed everything for us. Then we moved to 2024, where years of work are finally paying off. In May 2024, it was our first time making $1,000 in net revenue in under 10 minutes following a product release. Obviously, because we had improved not only our offer, but also our products and our way of releasing the products, everything that was urgency, scarcity, email marketing before the release, after the release, SMS marketing, having clear CTAs in our content, all these things put together and really strategizing how we would release products instead of just releasing products, which is what we used to do in the past, allowed us to make this amount of money in this amount of time. This is my face when this thing happened for the first time. You can see I was quite happy. I was on a Discord call with Francesco, and you can see here that we had quite a bit of visitors connected. The product was released at 1:30 p.m. At 1:39, we already had 1,000 euros, so not even dollars, but euros in sales. And the craziest part to me was the amount of active carts, people checking out, people purchasing. And I was just fascinated by the idea that all this work beforehand allowed us to live this experience where everybody from our audience, not everybody obviously, but a lot of people from our audience were connecting to buy this product. And the product wasn't so different to what we had done in the past. It was the whole marketing behind it and the whole hype that we had created around it. And of course, as a consequence, we were just getting a shit ton of sales, man. Like, it was a crazy experience because my phone was just blowing up with notifications, and it was a crazy, crazy feeling. June 2024, huge moment for us because we launched our digital community offer. It quickly became our key offer, which currently drives about 60% of our yearly net revenue. And it's hosted on circle.so. And it's basically just a space where producers can learn a bunch of things through our lessons, challenges. They get feedback from qualified producers and all these things. And this really just simply doubled our business in a single launch, and to this day, it's one of the most important things that we have. So key takeaways for 2024, audiences are composed of individuals. Everyone is unique and has different needs and desires, which means that most likely a single product is not going to cut it, right? Because we were just selling sounds through our digital products at first, but it turns out that some people needed to have a community, and some people wanted more in-depth content that we were able to give them through courses and through live lessons, which our Shopify store was simply not able to give them. So people are different, they have different needs, and your responsibility as an entrepreneur is to make sure that all of those needs and desires are eventually met through different products and services. All right, then offer creation is key. It's not just about the product, which is how we used to think. It's about how the product is perceived at an emotional level by your audience and how you package that product so that it becomes the obvious choice and decision for your audience, right? So you can have the same product, but if you do no marketing behind it, if there's no hype or no reason, emotionally speaking, for your audience to buy that thing, then the revenues are going to be so different between the two kinds of releases. So this is something that we understood, I guess later on. Maybe we should have understood it earlier, but again, it's part of our journey and there's no regret in any of it. And then what I also figured out is that MRR, so monthly recurring revenue, creates consistent cash flow and increases business predictability, which is amazing as a business owner because you know more or less how much money is going to come in from that offer every single month. And that creates a sense of ease, knowing that a part of your monthly revenue is more stable than having to depend on product launches to make your revenue, right? So this is a bit more technical, but it's something I wanted to share. And from this point on, obviously the years improved a lot. So in 2024, we made over $62,000 from our Shopify, and Stripe, the digital community, it just started, but still it was about $20,000, I think, if it's 17,000 euros, which definitely helped our overall revenue because we introduced something completely different to cater a different desire, a different need of a part of our audience. So then we moved to 2025, the foundation for the future. I loved last year because I thought it was a super important year for us. In January 2025, we actually trialed and quite miserably failed to launch content in the US. We had this desire to expand our business abroad, to not just be an Italian business, but to be kind of international and to also make content in English. This is me trying to make a video. The thing is, we had a bit of a vision and a direction we wanted to follow, but it was simply too difficult to manage content in Italian and in English. And then there was also a technical aspect of having to manage communication and landing pages in Italian and then doing them in English as well. It was just a bit overwhelming. And we figured that Italy still had a lot of potential as a market. So it was better to just focus on that market and expanding it to its maximum capacity before thinking about anything else. Then, obviously, we developed a lot of things during the year, but one of the key moments is that in September 2025, we launched our one-on-one coaching offer, and it led us to our first $20,000 net revenue month, which, again, huge milestone, and it's something that we had been talking about for a long time. So actually seeing it happen was incredible. You can see here that there's now a very diversified set of things that we're offering, right? We're receiving payments for coaching. 750 euros was kind of the V1, right? We didn't charge a lot of money in the beginning because we also didn't know how we were going to be as coaches. And over time, as we gained experience, we were able to increase that price a lot more. But at first, we thought it was fair to start with something very reasonable so that we could get the experience as well as coaches. Then we were getting sales through our e-commerce, so with product launches and offers here and there. And then our digital community was enabling us to get that monthly recurring revenue and to create that very stable baseline for our business. And then when we put everything together, that month was crazy because in September we had about $8,000 from our Shopify store with a peak in following a product launch. And then also, we made 3K in a single day from our coaching offer. So we had about, I think 12,000 euros is probably $14,000. So we made over $20,000 in a single month. And it was just a crazy feeling, man. Then we moved to November 2025, where we hosted our first live event in Milan called the Hype and Camp. Something that I forgot to mention is that the year prior, we also built our studio in Milan. So that's an investment that we made. And that was also a very interesting, learning experience. So this is how the event turned out. It was, man, I kind of get emotional thinking about it because we had 32 people show up at this event in our studio. Turns out that all these people are incredible guys, which shows that our effort in making content allowed us to attract a certain type of person. And it's also difficult to explain, but it's like the effort we put in allowed us to bring in the kind of person that we wanted without even knowing it. It turns out that we were just surrounded by these amazing, creative, respectful people. And the only reason why they were there in that moment is because they were watching our content since the beginning. And so to be able to spend the day with them and, doing workshops and teaching them things and making them reflect on their journey as music producers was crazy, man. It was crazy, an incredible feeling. And I really left Milan kind of feeling like emotionally complete, like very satisfied, obviously, with how the event turned out, but also very full emotionally because it was amazing to actually materialize in a way everything that we had built since 2019, 5 to 6 years later through this event. And we actually repeated this event this year in 2026 in March, and it was another incredible experience and success. 2025 key takeaways. The first one is that we created diversified products to solve our audience core and various needs. So 2025, when I talk about foundation, it's really the year where we felt, okay, now we have everything we need. We cater to all the different core needs of our audience. We have digital products. So if producers wanted sounds, they knew where to buy them. They had the digital community where they could go more in depth in their learning experience with us. We had the one-on-one coaching offer if somebody wanted like very custom and precise help in their journey as a music producer. And then we also had camps, so like live events for people that wanted a real life experience in a professional studio, which obviously not everybody can have at home. So that was a big learning and a big setup for the future. We met the people who, or rather meeting the people who consume your content in real life is an incredible feeling, as I said. And coaching people individually is very time consuming and also quite stressful, to be honest, especially in the beginning, but it makes impact so much more tangible. And to this day, it's one of the best things that I've done because I love helping people one-to-one, understanding their situation, their context, and giving all the tips and all the information, all the knowledge that I have to help them get to their objectives much, much faster. So this was 2025. This, again, we have other revenue streams, but you can see here from Shopify and from Stripe, $60,000 on Shopify, and Stripe definitely grew compared to 2024, where we got almost, maybe $62,000, something like that. And again, we have other revenue streams through music and stuff like that that are not mentioned here, but what an incredible year. And yeah, it was just amazing, man. So in 2026, where are we headed? The ambition is to grow 40% year on year with this Hype and Records business. We want to increase from $148,000 in net revenue, to be exact, in 2025 to $209,000 in 2026. Our focus is to improve the organic content strategy to attract more leads. So really focusing on both long form and short form. Short form is something that we haven't been able to do well and consistently. So that's going to be a huge opportunity for the top of funnel to acquire a larger audience still in the Italian market. Secondly, we want to scale our course and digital community by investing in paid ads and increase the digital product offer frequency so that the revenue from Shopify can also increase. In 2026, this is the team: Francesco, myself here, and then we have Marco, also known as SideQuest, who's another content creator, and Pietro, who's our editor. It's amazing to work with these guys. It also feels like, I don't know, a small family. And this is what I've always wanted. I've never really wanted big teams and like managing too many people. I think having your small group of friends that you actually, I don't know, are friends with and talk about other things in life, and managing this project is incredible. This is our story, looking back from 2019, where we had no idea what we were doing, to 2026, where we have, a clear business strategy, clear goals. It took a long time, man. It took a long time. It wasn't overnight. And I know from experience that sometimes we watch content on YouTube and stuff, and you think that building something meaningful that also generates a decent amount of money can happen overnight. In 30 days, you'll make this much and stuff. But the truth is that it takes time. And I always say that building good things takes a lot of time. And if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this video, is that we're not special in any way. Like, we're just regular people that had a passion for something, developed a skill for something, but we had no audience, no strategy, no idea how to do anything. And we just, layered the bricks bit by bit and learned everything we had to get to where we are today. So I really do believe that no matter what your skill is, whether it's music production or business or AI or cooking or sports or plumbing, it doesn't matter what it is. If you're willing to provide value to others, especially through content, you can build a business that generates real money, just like we did. And if you want our help figuring out where to start, we'd love to help you. We work directly with people who are ready to turn their skills into a profitable digital business. The reason why we do it is because we did it ourselves. Like, we're not making any of this up. We had a skill in music production and transformed it into a 6-figure digital business. And we realized that what we want the most now is to help other people do the same thing that we did. So click the first link in the description to book a free consultation call with us. It takes about 2 minutes. At the end of the day, the life you want to build is just on the other side of starting, and we'd love to help you get there. That being said, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.